Scorch Trials, Chapter 2. That was how it started. He heard Teresa say those 3 words, but it seemed from far away, as if spoken down a long, cluttered tunnel. His slumber had become a vicious liquid, thick and sticky, trapping him. He became aware of himself, but realized he was removed from the world, entombed by exhaustion. He couldn't wake up. Thomas! She screamed it, a piercing rattle in his head. He felt the first trickle of fear, but it was more like a dream. He could only sleep. And they were safe now. Nothing to worry about anymore. Yeah, it had to be a dream. Teresa was fine. They were all fine. He relaxed again, let himself drown in slumber. Other sounds snuck their way into his consciousness. Thumps, the clang of metal against metal, something shattering, boys shouting, more like the echo of shouts, very distant, muted. Suddenly they became more like screams, unearthly cries of anguish, but still distant, as if he'd been wrapped in a thick cocoon of dark velvet. Finally, something prickled the comfort of sleep. This wasn't right. Teresa had called for him, told him something was wrong. He fought the deep sleep that had consumed him, clawed at the heavy weight pinning him down. Wake up, he yelled at himself. Wake up! Then something disappeared from inside him. There, one instant, gone the next. He felt as if a major organ had just been ripped from his body. It had been her. She was gone. Teresa! He screamed out with his mind. Teresa, are you there? But there was nothing, and he no longer felt that comforting sense of her closeness. He called her name again, then again, as he continued to struggle against the dark pull of sleep. Finally, reality swept in, washed away the darkness. Engulfed in terror, Thomas opened his eyes and shot to a sitting position on his bed, scooted out until he got his feet under him and jumped up, looked around. Everything had gone crazy. The other gladers in the room were running around, shouting, and terrible, horrible, awful sounds filled the air, like the wretched squeals of animals being tortured. There was Frypan pointing out a window, his face pale. Newt and Minot were running to the door. Winston's hands held up to his frightened, acne-plagued face like he'd just seen a flesh-eating zombie. Others stumbling over each other to look out the different windows, but keeping their distance from the glass. Achingly, Thomas realized he didn't even know most of the names of the 20 boys who survived the maze. An odd thought to have in the middle of all that chaos. Something at the corner of his eye made him turn to look toward the wall. What he saw immediately wiped away any peace and safety he'd felt talking to Teresa in the night, made him doubt such emotions could even exist in the same world in which he now stood. 3 feet from his bed, draped by colorful curtains, a window looked out into a bright, blinding light. The glass was broken, jagged shards leaning against crisscross steel bars. A man stood on the other side, gripping the bars with bloody hands. His eyes were wide and bloodshot, filled with madness. Sores and scars covered his thin, sunburnt face. He had no hair, only diseased splotches of what looked like greenish moss. A vicious slit stretched across his right cheek. Thomas could see teeth through the raw, festering wound. Pink saliva dribbled in swaying lines from the man's chin. "I'm a crank!" the horror of the man yelled. "I'm a bloody crank!" And then he started screaming 2 words over and over and over, spit flying with every shriek. "Kill me! Kill me! Kill me!"